Yeah, the camaraderie is good too, because these reunions, you bump into people that you've kept in touch with for years. One of the things about the jumpers was that we pride ourselves in getting whatever project we were sent to do, getting it done like in hours or in a day or two. And this would kind of piss off the force because they didn't have anything to do with us after that. When we were down at Kelly Creek, we were supposed to run a pipeline, actually take the pipe, thread it, run a new water supply to the ranger station. And we were in there, and they assumed it was going to take a couple or 3 weeks. And I think in a few days, there were 5 of us there, I think, we just got rolling, and we had it all done. And the ranger didn't, he had anticipated, a couple of weeks' work, and we'd come in early and say it's done. And, because a lot of forest workers, they drag it out. And my 3rd year, we had to build a 3-mile road. We had to widen a trail to be wide enough for a tractor to go over it. This was down the Selway Bitterroot, because we were going to move 2 cabins 3 miles and erect them at the end of the airstrip in their dirt grass strip. And there was 5 or 6 of us on that project. And we had that road done in 6 or 8 days. And they figured it was going to take the Forest Service all summer to do it. And we numbered the logs in the cabin. We knocked the cabin down, because we were all, in early 20s, peak of health, and we knocked those cabins down, and the tractor hauled 4 or 5 logs at a time to the new location. And in 2 months, we built the road. We took down the 2 cabins and moved them to the new site. We erected the cabins, and during that time, on the airstrip, it's called Shearer Landing. It's still operating today. There was one hell of a hay crop that was growing there, because it used to be a backcountry ranch. And we also harvested I don't know how many tons of hay during that time period, and we hauled it into a barn because they kept horses in there all winter, and it was a way of feeding the horses throughout the winter. They had 1 person in there during the winter. But in 2 months, the road, the cabins down and up, hay harvested, and also we cut brand new shakes for the roof out of cedar. The packer brought in these cross-section log sections, and we'd split them, and then we had a tool for cutting shingles, and the cabins were all done. We had hardwood floors in them. We scrubbed the floors, and they looked pretty good. We had brand new roofs on them, and the ranger was just beside himself. And those cabins, I was in there 2 years ago when I turned 80. I got flown in with my wife, and we hung out around there for 10 days. And they were just flabbergasted that this what they thought was going to be maybe a couple of summers to do that kind of work. Bingo, it was done, and it was just crazy. And we almost killed ourselves that summer too, because typical government, you work 8 to 5, 5 days a week, no overtime except if you were called to do something. And here we are in the Selway, and it's probably 20 or 30 miles hike out just to get to the end of a road, from the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness. And so we're in there, and we just assume work 7 days a week, but typical government regulations. So on weekends we just sort of trying to find what to do, and we're right on the Selway River, which you might know is a premier whitewater river. I mean, it's got rapids that'll swallow up a ocean liner almost, huge. And we didn't know that, and the ranger who's in there, he was a seasonal guy that he worked in the mines in Butte, and he didn't warn us. And this buddy of mine and I said, well, let's build a raft and go down the river on Saturday, on the weekend. So we realized that a raft would flip over. So we built an upside down raft. We put 2 logs, 2 really big logs, and then we just nailed planks underneath. It was nailed together, so you had, a log like that. Okay, and with these planks, then we turned it over, so the logs, it sat down in the water. We were wet, but we just had a bathing suit on and our shoes, so you're down, and so you got stability, in there. So on the Saturday, we just, I don't think we had any food or anything. We just had sneakers, bathing suit, and the 2 of us, it wasn't that long, 2 of us hopped in there. I don't even think we had a paddle. We were just going to push off the rocks or something. I mean, really stupid. And nobody warned us. We knew that we could see some riffles and rapids in there. So we headed downstream from an area called Shearer. And holy Christ, we made it through a couple of rapids. One we flipped over and my buddy was stuck underneath, and I was able to hold on to him and pull him around so his head came up. So he was holding on the log with his head above, and we got through that rapids, and we were just laughing about it, And so then we turned it back over, and we went another, I don't know, mile or 2 and hit some furious stuff. Finally, we just abandoned the raft and hiked, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles back, to the station. And but I mean, every time I see him at the reunion, he brings his wife and he says, "This guy saved my life," out there. But it's just, odd stuff like that. But you're so exuberant and in such good health that just heading down the rapids. Or we would climb these steep peaks that were nearby on the weekends just to burn off energy. And but I mean, they could have worked this. We could have worked 7 days a week, and we wouldn't have complained. We didn't. But the rangers said no regulations. Friday, that's it. So, but laying in a big tent, reading a paperback all weekend after weekend, that wouldn't do it. So, but that's and only 3 of us are left from that crew. The others are dead. And there's one guy here, Hank Broderson. He's here for the reunion. I just met him an hour or so ago. But I write to him during the year, and I had some of my best friends in life were made when I was smoke jumping, and unfortunately, 3 or 4 of them have died over the years. But it was something about being in this unique, unit that once you've done it and worked with these guys, and unfortunately there were no women in it then. Maybe in the 80s, maybe this, I don't know when women started in it, but one of my buddies went on, he finished biology, he got a PhD, and he became a well-known authority on the physiology of birds, and he's at the University of Arizona, and internationally known, and then unfortunately died of prostate cancer 8-9 years ago. Another guy, he did very well, and then he got ALS and passed away, and this stuff just it takes its toll. But whenever we got together after even a decade, there was no gap. I mean, we just start talking about families and contemporary stuff and on. So it really, and somebody said, it might even have been Hank there. He said everything was easier after smoke jumping. So I mean, because in those years, it was pretty primitive. There were no walkie-talkies. Well, there were, but they were about this big, and they had tubes in them, and they would pack it in an inner tube and drop it on a small parachute, and usually just when it hit the ground, the tubes would either break or the filaments would break. There was no transistors and no transistor radios or anything. So we did signals. We had a signal code. I had a little card that was in our packs, and we had paper that we laid out, crepe paper. We laid it out in different letters that meant different things. So after you dropped, you put out an LL. I don't know why it was an LL, but it meant everything's okay. So the plane would come by and look, and then it would take off. And they only gave you two days worth of food in your pack, and it was all hand tools. And you just took off and tried to control the fire. Luckily, most of the fires were fairly small because we were on them, right away. But there was no, and so sometimes when you hike out, it would be 3 or 4 days. If you're up in the middle of Bob Marshall, it was a long hike out, and you had to get your heavy equipment to some place where the packer could find it. And sometimes the fire, they gave you a section of the map for the forest with an X where the fire was and a mark where the nearest, follow this trail to this road head. And sometimes they missed it by the whole valley. The airplane could find it. You fly up the valley, and you know how it is over the stuff. You get valley after valley after valley with all the drainages, and the lookout, is guessing how many valleys up the fire is in, and if he thinks it's 3 up and it's actually 4 up, he points it to 3, and the dispatcher puts it there. When the airplane goes out, he's not going to drop you at Valley 3. He's going to see the smoke and, go around, find a spot at the smoke and drop you. So you're on the ground, you think you're in 3, but you're in 4. and some guys got, they were extra couple of days trying to, find their way out just because, it wasn't located. And it wasn't a case like today where you could, call in and then later in the 50s, they started going crazy with helicopter pickups. They're relatively cheap, but they drop off and pick up with helicopters. And then I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but they I guess they realized that wasn't a very economical way to go in there as well. So so that I guess the camaraderie is, and that's why they have these reunions and hundreds of people show up.